Welcome back. Today we have a really fascinating and frankly highly contentious source to dive in. It's all about American political violence.
It definitely is. And our job today really is just to unpack this source's specific, very partisan argument.
Right. And the core of it is this claim that the data we usually see, the stuff tracking domesticism is fundamental.
Deeply flawed, according to this. They take aim at studies from places like CSIS, the ADL, the Prosecution Project, names you probably recognize.
Yeah, those are often cited.
And the claim is pretty startling, that the data showing, mostly right-wing violence is supposedly based on fabricated studies and made-up data produced by left, direct quote.
Wow, okay, so no pulling punches there. How do they support that? What's the argument about the data collection itself?
Well, they claim the organizations compiling the raw data are, in their words, radical left organizations, or that the methods used are just total garbage.
Any specific example?
They specifically try to undermine the Prosecution Project. They point to its producer allegedly self-identifying as an Antifa revolutionary.
Okay. So the argument is that this reveals an inherent bias, a lack of neutrality from the start.
Exactly. And building on that idea of bias, the source then talks about what gets excluded from these trackers.
Right. What do they claim is missing?
They argue significant acts of leftist violence just aren't counted. The big example they use is the 2020 BLM riots.
Okay.
The source claims those resulted in over 25 deaths, $2 billion in damage. They also mention attacks, arson, vandalism against places like Tesla dealerships.
And the source classifies those as?
That's politically motivated terrorism. They insist these should be in the data sets for leftist violence.
Okay, so exclusion is one part. What about the groups that are included? How are they categorized?
That's the other side of the coin. The source really takes issue with how perpetrators are labeled. They bring up the Aryan Brotherhood, for instance.
How so? What's the argument there?
Well, they say classifying them mainly as far-right political violence. They suggest it's more of a criminal treason gang.
Focused on money and drugs.
Yeah, exactly. Money, drugs, and survival is how the source puts it.
Yeah.
Using white supremacy maybe as a structure for control, but not driven purely by ideology like, say, a political group might be.
I see. So mischaracterization on one side and then...
And then on the flip side, they point to the convictions of January 6th protesters. They argue those are examples of violence being inappropriately added to the far-right count.
So the overall picture they're painting is one of deliberate skewing, inflating one side, suppressing the other.
Precisely. Which leads us to maybe the most striking part of their argument, the motivations of the killers themselves.
Right, because this source seems to be trying to decouple some really high-profile acts of violence from ideology altogether.
It absolutely is. They assert that famous figures we often think of as far-right killers, like Anders Breivik in Norway, or Jared Lee Lerner, who shot Gabby Giffords.
Yeah, very well-known cases.
Weren't actually motivated by conservative ideology. The source calls them compulsively violent psychopaths who just sort of latched onto political language.
How do they back that up? That's a claim.
They claim Breivik admitted lying about his beliefs, that he plagiarized his manifesto, and they note Lerner was an atheist conspiracy theorist, not really a conservative.
Okay. And this connects to their idea about media incentives.
Exactly. This is crucial for their argument. The source claims the media, they name NBC, CNN, creates this incentive.
An incentive for what?
For fame.
Yeah.
A psychopath wanting attention, they argue, is pushed to adopt a right-wing persona because that guarantees maximum news coverage.
While, according to the source...
While left-wing shooters, they claim, get swept under the rug. So the media narrative, they argue, is self-fulfilling, making it look like violence mainly comes from the right.
That's quite a theory about media dynamics. And how do they portray left-wing perpetrators?
By contrast, they're described as true believers. The source mentions the person targeting Charlie Kirk, or what they term trans shooters.
And their motivation is seen as...
genuinely ideological. Radicalized, they say, by leftist media and propaganda, believing murder is a means to an end, that they're killing Hitler. Said pure belief, not pathology.
So a stark difference in how motivations are framed. Do they offer any data to support this ideological divide?
They do cite one specific survey, a YouGov poll. It apparently showed only 3% of very conservative Americans thought political violence was justified.
Okay, and compared to
25%, a full quarter of very liberal Americans. They use this gap to bolster their claim about where the acceptance of violence lies ideologically.
Right. So if we tie this all together, the excluded data, the mischaracterizations, the motivation argument survey, what's the source's ultimate conclusion?
The bottom line for this source is that the left turns to violence because they feel they cannot win the ideological debate.
Because they've abandoned reality on key issues. That's the phrase.
Yes, exactly. Issues ranging from, transgender rights to crime to climate change. The source contends that when the ideas fail, violence becomes the main tactic for the left. It's become their mainstream position.
That's a very strong final statement. So, considering this source's specific claim about killers adopting personas for fame, driven by media attention, here's something for you, the listener, to think about. How might the way the media covers violent events actually shape the motivations, or at least the expressed motivation, of people who might commit violence?